Rachel Zegler gets destroyed with another devastating blow over the Snow White woke disaster. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get right into this. So, welcome back to Views with Hughes, Culture and News. This is Jerome Hughes. Now, let's go ahead and get right into it. All right. So, gather around, people, because I've got a story to tell you about, Snow White that's going to make you shake your head in disbelief once again. Now, we're going to be diving into a real holiday disaster for Disney with their latest venture, the Snow White live-action remake starring Rachel Zegler. And trust me, it's as disappointing yet not surprising as finding a lump of coal in your Christmas stocking, okay? So, I don't know about y'all, but I've always had a soft spot for the classics, especially the kind of classics that were, Disney's animated gems like Snow White. Now, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from 1937, y'all remember that, right? That's not just a movie. It's a piece of art, a slice of American culture that's been loved by generations. But what's Disney been up to lately with Snow White? Well, they decided to take this classic tale and just basically slap it with what they call modern reimagining starring Rachel Zegler. And let me tell you, with the results with Rachel Zegler, it is no surprise at all right there. So basically, as y'all know, Disney dropped a Christmas Day preview of this new Snow White with Rachel Zegler, and definitely didn't go over well. It's like they thought, hey, let's release this on a day when everyone's supposed to be feeling the Christmas cheer. Maybe they won't notice how much we've botched it with, Rachel Zegler. But guess what? The people noticed and they were not happy at all. Now, as you all know, the dislike ratio for Snow White preview, it's sky high, almost like, the number of ornaments on a Rockefeller Christmas tree. Yeah, that many right there, which is like too much to count for a lot of us. But now, Rachel Zegler, the actress playing Snow White, now, I'm not here to bash anybody, but her comments about the original Snow White film actually stirred up a hornet's nest. You see, Rachel Zegler has called the classic weird, as you all know, and compared Prince Charming to a stalker. I mean, seriously, these are not just any characters. They're part of our collective memory on like a lot of people's childhood, and this isn't just about, changing a few lines or updating the costumes in Snow White. You see, they've fundamentally alter the narrative itself, making Snow White less of a fairy tale princess and more of, well, honestly, I don't even know what to call it with Rachel Zegler at the helm. Now, they went on ahead, turned the story into something unrecognizable, and the audience has actually spoken with their thumbs down, all right? As of the latest count, we're looking at about over 16,000 dislikes compared to just 2,900 likes, and that's not a ratio. That's a landslide of disapproval for the Snow White starring Rachel Zegler. And let's be honest here. I mean, it's not like this is one-off incident. Every trailer, every snippet released for Snow White featuring Rachel Zegler has been met with a similar wave of dislikes, and it's clear that the audience isn't just rejecting the movie itself, they're rejecting Disney's direction with these remakes starring Rachel Zegler. Now, let's be real. They swapped out the charm and the innocence of Snow White for what feels like a woke political statement, and that's not what people come to see or watch anything from Disney and stuff. But why this all might be happening with Rachel Zegler and Snow White? First off, there's the visual aspect where the CGI dwarfs have been a point of contention. They look more like something out of a poorly executed video game from the early 2000s than the beloved characters that we know and love. Now, fans have been calling them out ever since the news broke about this and saying that they're not just unappealing but downright laughable. Okay. And then there's also the major narrative shift in Snow White starring Rachel Zegler. You see, Snow White isn't just waiting for her prince anymore. She's basically leading some kind of socialist revolution. So it seems, with the trailers that we've seen with Rachel Zegler, the classic tale of love, innocence, and a bit of magic has been twisted into, something that feels like it's trying to check off, some sort of social justice boxes rather than tell a timeless story. And let's not overlook the fact that, there's the casting controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler as Snow White. You see, Rachel Zegler, as you have known, has been quite vocal about not just the movie itself, but like a lot of political issues, including advocating for, basically ending of a certain situation in the Middle East during the movie's promotion. Now, I'm all for freedom of speech, but when you're the face of a Disney princess, you're also carrying a brand that's supposed to be about unity, joy, and bringing families together, with Rachel Zegler as lead. But unfortunately, we're not seeing that at all. But on top of all of this, there's also the financial aspect. Disney has basically poured a fortune into this film. We're talking about a budget that's ballooned to $500 million with all these reshoots and stuff. And for what? To produce something that, might not even break even in the box office. I mean, this isn't just a creative misstep with Rachel Zegler. It's a financial gamble that's looking more like a blunder by the day. Okay, and that shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. Now, you might ask, why keep pushing these remakes if they're not involved with Rachel Zegler? Or not loved with Rachel Zegler? That's what the $1 million question is, isn't it? I mean, it seems like, Disney is more interested in pushing a woke agenda than storytelling with Snow White and Rachel Zegler. They've said that they're going to get out of the whole culture war thing, but I believe when I see it. Now, they've forgotten what made them great. Storytelling that resonates with the heart, not just with the headlines, okay? That's something that, we want in the first place, but here's where it gets even more interesting. Disney isn't just facing backlash for Snow White with Rachel Zegler. It's a part of, a broader trend where their recent live action adaptations have all had their share of controversy and disappointment. Now, it's like Disney's lost the plot, literally and figuratively, especially with Snow White, starring Rachel Zegler. Now, they're chasing after what they think is progressive, but without realizing that progress isn't in storytelling about changing the story to fit the times. It's about telling the stories that transcends time, okay? And let's not forget the impact that this has on the Disney brand with Snow White and Rachel Zegler. Now, remember, once upon a time, Disney was synonymous with family entertainment, with magic that everyone could enjoy. But right now, I mean, it's like they're intentionally dividing their audience, where they're not just risking the success of individual films, they're risking the goodwill of the generations of fans who love the animated film of Snow White. So basically, I mean, where exactly do we go from here with Snow White and Rachel Zegler? Well, if I were Disney, I'd take a long, hard look at what made the classics, classic. I mean, it wasn't diversity quotas or political sermons. It was heart, adventure, and even innocence in stories like Snow White. I mean, maybe it's time for Disney to go back to basics, to remember why we fell in love with Snow White and stories like it in the first place. But we may not have that under Bob Iger. You see, the whole Christmas Day debacle with Snow White starring Rachel Zegler isn't just a sign of the times. It's basically a warning. Disney needs to listen to its audience, as I said plenty of times before, not just the loudest voices on social media, especially with Rachel Zegler and Snow White. They need to remember that magic isn't made by CGI or any kind of controversial casting. It's actually made by stories that capture our imagination and our heart. So basically, I mean, until Disney figures that out with Snow White and Rachel Zegler, I mean, I'll be over here watching the old classics where Snow White was just a girl in the forest, not a figurehead for a revolution. And if you're with me, maybe we'll see Disney learn from this and give us back the magic that we've all been missing with Snow White, okay? And yeah, here's hoping for the happier ending to the story than just the one we've seen so far with Snow White and Rachel Zegler. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have on this particular topic. If you enjoy what was shared in this video, go ahead, smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media. And if you haven't done so already, you enjoy all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.